The judiciary stopped being sacred when it chose to squander the greatest opportunity that any bench of the highest court of this land has ever seen, to reinforce the founding principles of our democratic republic and to uphold the rights enshrined in Part 3 of our Constitution. Instead, it let migrants walk to their deaths, it let our greatest activists and modern fighters rot in jail, and it now sits back as a mute spectator when our young are prosecuted for cracking a joke. The judiciary seems to have forgotten the constitutional principle of separation of powers, that Parliament and Parliament alone can legislate. If something is bad in law, then the courts can strike it down or stay it on grounds of unconstitutionality. But unless it is so, the courts must do nothing. The government alone must face the consequences. If the government has brought in the farm laws which are not acceptable to people, then either the government will repeal the laws or the courts or the people will vote the government out. We urgently need the sagacity and courage shown by the High Courts during the emergency when they delivered ADM Jabalpur and like decisions. The Supreme Court, unfortunately, is failing the common citizen and is being perceived as protecting the privilege and, ironically, only itself. A very large section of the Indian media has plummeted to new depths, both in terms of lack of factual reporting as well as the total absence of journalistic ethics. And yet, even when the bar is so low, the WhatsApp chat leaks detailing correspondence between a large government-leaning media channel and the head of the TV ratings agency expose the utter filth and the crony capitalism that, ironically, this government claimed to be saving us from. What is left of the resilient media is being targeted with the provisions of the UAPA and other draconian laws. You keep taunting the Congress about the emergency, but India today is in a state of undeclared emergency. But the government has miscalculated. There is a fundamental difference between cowardice and courage. The coward is brave only when armed with power and authority. The truly courageous can fight even when unarmed. Do not forget this.
But Madam, today I would like to talk about the most burning issue in the state of Andhra Pradesh, which is the privatization of Vizag Steel Plant. An in-principle agreement has been taken by the cabinet saying that 100% disinvestment should be made in RINL Vizag Steel Plant. On behalf of Telugu Desam Party and the people of Andhra Pradesh, we totally oppose this decision of privatization of Vizag Steel Plant, Madam, and I would like to present my case by talking about the history of the inception of this plant. Around 7 to 8 years, under the slogan of Vishaka Ukku Andhrula Hakku, which means the steel of Vizag is the right of Andhra, the people of both Telangana and Andhra Pradesh came together and fought with the center for the establishment of the steel plant. 32 people have lost their lives. 22,000 farmers have donated their lands for the establishment of this plant. So today, even if the owners of this plant is the central government, they have to realize that it was made on the sacrifices of the Telugu people, Madam. If the central government has a big heart, then they would realize that privatization of this Vizag steel plant is not the right decision, but I see that they have conveniently ignored all the emotions and sentiments of the Telugu people and they are going with a separate argument. And one of the arguments being made is that Vizag steel plant is a sick unit. I beg to differ, Madam. I'd like to place some of the stats on record where it is between 2000 and 2015, the turnover has been 1.4 lakh crores and profits after taxes of 12,600 crores. And for 13 consecutive years, it exceeded 100% capacity utilization. Vizag steel plant has achieved an all-time high of 1.3 million tons in exports. And recently, in times of COVID also, the workers have worked putting their lives at risk. And December 2020, profit of 212 crores. Jan 2021, 134 crores profit. Feb 2021, 165 crores profit. And this present month, they are expecting 300 plus crores profit. So I beg to differ whenever they say that Vizag steel plant is a sick unit. And the second argument being made by the central government often when it comes to disinvestment of PSUs is that we shouldn't waste taxpayers' money in these sick units. First of all, I explained it's not a sick unit, but the second argument where
when it came to Yes Bank, the SBI immediately infused funds into Yes Bank. Why this stepmotherly treatment for PMC? 60 people have committed suicide. What is the interest that government had with Yes Bank and that same love is not shown towards PMC Bank? And what kind of administrator is working in PMC Bank from last 1 year? That person, that honorable person has not been able to sell the yacht which is stuck in Sri Lanka. 2 aircrafts are stuck in Mumbai airport. This is the love of this government for PMC depositors who are suffering day in, day out. Sir, my third question is about this. In this bill, it talks about issue of equity preference or special shares by way of publics issue and private placement. Are you trying to say that now SEBI will interfere in it? Because this issue of equity and public issue, are you bringing in SEBI? Please enlighten all of us. My fourth question to the Honourable Minister is that RBI is being given power is the government claim. If that is the case, why did Yes Bank, PNB, IL&FS, and in March 2020, Franklin Templeton happened? What was RBI doing? What was this government doing? How did they allow all these four important things which happened was right under the rule of Mr. Modi? My fifth question is, since demonetization, the financial industry is slowly and steadily collapsing and showing how regulation by RBI, SEBI, NABARD is completely absent. So the way banks are now suffering, I feel one of the reasons is because of this unplanned Tughlaq-like decision of demonetization. Madam, sir, my sixth question is, this frauds reported by banks, which I said in the first point, about 1 lakh and above fraud has increased by 28%. Who's responsible for this?
This bill is not just an affront to the basic tenets of equality and religious non-discrimination that have been enshrined in our constitution, but it's an all-out assault on the very idea of India that our forefathers gave their lives for during the freedom struggle. Our freedom movement split on the issue of whether religion should be the determinant of nationhood. Those who believed in that were those who advocated the idea of Pakistan. Mahatma Gandhi onwards, Nehruji, Ambedkar, Maulana Azad believed the opposite, that religion has nothing to do with our nationhood, and they created a free country for all people of all religions, regions, castes and languages. The Indian Constitution rejected the notion of the two-nation theory. If this bill passes, Madam Chair, it will mark the victory of Muhammad Ali Jinnah's thinking over that of Mahatma Gandhi. You cannot say you reject Pakistan while advocating the same logic as Pakistan. Ironically, it goes against the historic legacy of Hindus in this country. Swami Vivekananda has been quoted already as saying how proud he was to speak of a nation that has long given refuge to the persecuted of all nations and all faiths. We lived up to Vivekananda's We lived up to it by giving refuge to Tibetan refugees, to the Baha'i community, to Sri Lankan Tamils, and 10 million Bangladeshis, the largest refugee exodus in human history, without once asking them what their religion was. Today, you are violating Article 14 of the Constitution by singling out one community and refusing to grant only them asylum from oppression. We have already had a partition of the Indian soil, Madam Chair. This bill is marking a partition of the Indian soul. And I beg this government not to proceed with this. You yourself, when speaking from the floor, went on about UNHCR's work. It's not HRC, it's HCR. I worked for them for 11 years. And I can tell you how sad it is that India is one of the few democracies in the world not to have either ratified the Refugee Convention or Protocol, and one of the very few democracies. Mantri ji, main khud kehta hoon ki we have a wonderful record of refuge. I said the largest refugee exodus in our history, but we have not created any legal instruments. I went to the former Home Minister with my private member's bill requesting a national asylum and refugee policy. I've seen his MOS, I've seen them. The government has
हुआ है इन 5 सालों में और कितनी तरक्की हुई है, लेकिन सच्चाई कुछ और है। मैं 2 महीनों से उत्तर प्रदेश का दौरा लगा रही हूं, जन जन से मिलती हूं, और मैंने वो सच्चाई देखी है। मैंने वो सच्चाई उन नौजवानों की आंखों में देखी है जो हर चौराहे पे, हर बाजार पे मुझसे मिलते हैं और कहते हैं कि हमारे पास दीदी कोई रोजगार नहीं है। मैं वो सच्चाई उन आलू किसानों की आंखों में देखती हूं जो लखनऊ, रायबरेली तक मेरे पास आकर मेरे से बात करते हैं, मुझे बताते हैं कि आज बीज का दाम उपज के दाम से ज्यादा है, कि कर्ज में डूबे हुए हैं, कि उनकी लागत दुगनी हो चुकी है, कि कोल्ड स्टोरेज या तो बंद है या उनकी कीमत इतनी है कि वो नामुमकिन है। वो एक किसान जिसने मुझे बताया कि 19 टन आलू लेकर महाराष्ट्र जाना पड़ा उसको बेचने के लिए, जहां 94,000 रुपए उन्हें मिले। रास्ते में जाने के लिए उन्होंने 42,000 रुपए खर्चे, कोल्ड स्टोरेज के लिए 46,000 रुपए खर्चे, और अंत में मात्र 490 रुपए मात्र 490 रुपए लेकर घर आए। उन्होंने वो रुपए एक लिफाफे में डाले और हमारे प्रधानमंत्री जी के घर भेजे, उनको यह बताने के लिए कि यह है हमारी हालत, ये है इस देश की असलियत जिसे आप पहचान नहीं रहे हैं, जिसको आपका प्रचार छुपा। ये असलियत जो आप भुगत रहे हैं, इसके बारे में मुझसे ज्यादा आप जानते हैं। और जो प्रचार आप देखते हैं, इसका झूठ आप समझते हैं। जब आप सवाल उठाते हैं